Hey, everyone. Happy belated Thanksgiving to all of you out there. I am John C. Morley, one of your co hosts, and together I'm with,
Hurricane Age.
and together we make up
Double
Double
impact.
Impact, baby. How was everybody's Thanksgiving? Hopefully, you didn't eat too much turkey and pie. Pie's always nice.
I think everybody got a little bit of all of that, all of the above.
I was
Double impact.
having Thanksgiving dinner, and you know how I am with eating and stuff like that. Well, they were piling. First, I went in and had all the vegetables. Didn't have room, and then I came and with the salad, and I came back, and then it was a buffet. Then I came back and I got the dinner. Well, when they did the dinner, they're piling up. I was like, okay, just 6 to 8 ounces, and the guy's like, piling on my plate, and I'm like, there's no way this is 6 to 8 ounces. So I get back to my table, ask the waiter, I said, could you bring me like another take home, container? And I started taking half of it and putting it in the container because I said, he gave me like 16 ounces here. This is way too much food.
I know you break your food for like 4 days, so I don't know. How did you manage?
That worked out okay. I actually had that for lunch the next day.
There you go. See?
But speaking about food, how many of you guys out there like popcorn? Not many.
Well, no one is on yet, but I bet you there are a few people that would be raising their hands right now.
So you guys know I live a very healthy lifestyle, knock wood, and I always try to stay healthy. And recently, I just got back from Florida, just literally today. And unfortunately, I was sick from Saturday till about 6 hours ago. Full, and I say sick. I was better because I thought I wouldn't have gotten on the plane, but I was to the point where I was still being bothered. And so I was with my folks, and it was Saturday that we actually we were going out to dinner, and but just before having dinner, my mom says, "Oh, I made some fresh popcorn." I usually don't like the kind with the butter in it, but I said, "All right, I'll eat it, whatever. Have some water. Popcorn's usually good for you, except 86 the butter." So I had that, and they were having some. I was really enjoying having some popcorn. Popcorn's a good way to fill up and stay healthy, just not with the butter. And so then we went to dinner, and I was going to dinner, and I was starting to feel kind of not good in my stomach, not good all over. And I figured, well, maybe it's a soup, maybe something I'm eating. I said, I'll just eat slow. Went to the restroom, came back, and I said, maybe it was just a one-off thing. And no, because that night proceeded, and it got worse. And then when I thought it was done the following day, it was still continuing on until finally today. In fact, this morning I was up to 1 o'clock in the morning. I could not find a comfortable position. When you try to, you basically try to swallow in a way of trying to keep your food down. You can do that a little bit, but when you're tasting the popcorn, this is what I had. Conagra Foods has a recall on their foods. This is like the 6th or 7th time they've done this. So if you like Orville Redenbacher and you're getting it by Conagra Foods, that's who distributes for a lot of them. They had an issue. This is why I don't like the butter anyway. They mix it with the milk, and there was a kerneling of the milk expiring. And I knew what it was because every time I was like burping, like I could taste the stupid popcorn again. I'm like, why am I tasting it again and again and again? And my parents were like, well, I said, yeah, but I had a lot of it. And I went online, I did some research, like, sure enough, they had a recall on it. My mom went to the store today to complain. They gave her $25 back. I said, well, that's nice, but the $25 really didn't. I was like, and I could be dying and I won't say a word. Like I was just, I kind of like did my thing. I actually did my show Sunday night, and then I went to bed because I was just like, and I'd even go under the covers. I literally just laid on the top, and I kept taking deep breaths, but I couldn't get rid of it. And I just wanted to be ready to pop to the restroom, to here to there. And finally at 1 o'clock in the morning, I got to the point where I had my last, let's say, regurgitation and get back to bed. And after that, in the morning, my mom was going to make French toast. I said, I don't want any French toast. I said, I'm just going to have some green tea. I got on the plane, and I was still a little afraid about eating something, but I said, you know what, I'm hungry. So I'm going to get some ginger ale, and I'm going to have the little cookies. In fact, I still have them right here, the biscotti cookies. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I had some of those, and I I was good. And then for dinner, I said, I'm feeling better. So I went to Chili's after getting home, and I went and got a, what do they call it? The Southwest chicken. So I had that. Later, I'm going to have some dessert. But I didn't want to eat too much. But my point is that a lot of these companies, these big companies, they get away with this stuff. And what's the $25? $25 isn't crap. Okay. And I say this because I went to Disney many, many times, but I've gotten turned off with them because I got deathly sick at one of their best restaurants, Victoria and Albert's. And so I'll only go back there if it's a conference. And what did they offer to give me? They were going to give me a free night stay. Big deal. You know what I'm saying? I was in a lot of pain. And I think I told you the other time I had it, which is when I went to a place up in Oshkosh. I think it was really, there's a place called Oshkosh. And I was there and I was having a sandwich and I got sick afterwards. The guy didn't have gloves on his hand. So I'm very picky about that. But if you like Orville Redenbacher popcorn, which I love, but I don't like Conagra Foods because they're giving Orville Redenbacher a bad name because the Orville Redenbacher is so big, they don't make their own popcorn anymore. Conagra Foods makes the recipe for them. See, that's a problem, HH, when you have a company that has to get involved and actually make your product.
I mean, if you're not in the food business, or you're in the food business, but you're not manufacturing, you're going to have to use one of those, right? And
I know, but I think they got to be a little more careful. Like, this has gone on. This happened 6 times, 7 times. I mean, when do you say enough's enough? Like enough. Like, we got to go somewhere else.
Well, so let's talk about that, John, because
Okay.
this thing that you had,
Mhm.
it's you're not the first nor the last, and it's been going. I've had my share of food poisoning over the years, and it sucks. One time I had literally to go to the emergency room, and they had to give me a cocktail to actually get it all out and
Oh,
cleanse.
really?
Oh yeah, it was just crazy. And it turned out that I ate some bad food, and that was it. So
Exactly.
so so you mentioned a couple of things. One is gloves and no gloves and things like that. So the hygiene level, and sometimes you actually go to these restaurants and you can see it's not really the cleanest place. And it doesn't matter what brand they are. I mean, unfortunately, they maintain, but it's all about the people that work in that day there, right? In the
Out
case
in
that
the kitchen. Yeah.
in the kitchen, yeah. I mean, you don't see what's going on in the kitchen. I mean, these guys, they're running around. They don't care. I mean, they'll probably stuff.
The
They're
places
just
we go to our club, you can see the kitchen because the kitchen, you can see right in the kitchen. You can actually see them working in the kitchen.
well,
You can see
that's
them
nice.
preparing and you
Yeah.
can see them. But yeah, not all places are like that.
I think 99% of places you're not going to see what's going on behind the scene there. Something is cooking for real, but you just don't know what's cooking, right? And then until it's in your plate and then it's in your body, you don't know what the outcome, right? So it could be a challenge.
And then
Um,
Sunday came. It was a lady who turned 90 some years old. We were going to she took her out to brunch, and they had these people coming in from Italy, and they brought us these chocolates and I was fine. And then we had like a breakfast, and then they had cake afterwards, and I was fine. But then afterwards, it didn't kind of. I guess I wasn't better. I mean, when you're coughing up your lungs like that, you think it's, and all you're doing, and I noticed it because it was the food. It was people say, "Oh my gosh, you're coughing your lungs." Well, you're not really coughing any up. It's just the food. So a lot of people panic. Oh my gosh, you're bleeding. No, you're not. You're just taking the food that you ate because everything you have is aggravating the lining. So first thing you do is you roll for like a Tums or something, but they're not always great. I think the ginger ale works well, and I like my little bit of Pepto. That's like a magic
I,
bullet for
I
me.
I actually use like tonic water, like Schweppes or one of those, and it does,
Okay.
it does work. At least to and ginger ale actually does work too. I mean, I'm not a big fan of soda, but for these occasions, if I feel any stomach upset, I kind of use those. Try to stay away from the Tums and the others, but sometimes you have no choice. Those work too for the acid
I
reflux
was
and all that stuff.
trying it
Yeah.
and it was helping a little bit, but when you were in that kind of discomfort, you couldn't go to sleep. You just
Uh,
kept rolling around and you kept kind of like going back and forth and like, well, how do you swallow in a way that'll be better? How do you and it's like a night and day because I swallow now, I don't taste anything. And I shouldn't taste anything. But when I did this up until I'm gonna say boarding the plane this morning at like 9, 10 o'clock, I was still tasting that milk and the popcorn.
Well, so going back to the popcorn,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's amazing because listen, who doesn't love a movie, right? And then we all go to the movies, and again, I think people still do that, right? I hope. And one of the signatures is getting the popcorn. And to your point, I mean, it's not really buttery at the time when they give it to you, but you got these pumps there, and people just keep pumping, all that nice, nice stuff on top. And some people like them
I
really
avoid those pumps, and when I'm home, I make my popcorn not in the microwave or on the stove. I make it
the
with
pop up.
air.
Yeah, the air
Air.
pop. Yeah. That's nice. Or you could do it traditionally, but there's different ways to do it. But again, when you got these things that are pre-packed or whatever, yeah, unfortunately, you don't know how, because again, preservatives, additives, all these things are in there, and those things are not always good. Then you also raise the idea of maybe old food or things that are not, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you don't even read, whether this is expired, not expired. Although the expiration, we can talk about a whole what's the expiration date, when it started, and all that nonsense, and why it's there. So there's reason for that, shelf life and all the stuff. But really, some of the things can actually expire quickly, as dairy and all these things, so that's where you get the problem. Some of the things can stay forever. I mean, well, not forever, but long enough you can save them for doomsday. But the fact is, we have to be aware and careful wherever we go. I mean, avoid grease and stuff. I mean, that reflex that you had, it's just that you taste that bad butter in, every time, and that's nasty, right? I mean, it
It took
just
a
stays.
while. I mean, I took water, but it took a while to get rid of that because you weren't tasting it just that day. I had that at, I'm going to tell you, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We went out to dinner at 5 o'clock. Okay. Didn't really notice it then. It was like a light taste, like a little bit, but then it started bothering me after dinner. Everything was bothering me. The chocolate was bothering me. So the meal was probably good. It's just that I was probably affected by what I had, and I think the challenge is you just don't really know. So my big thing I should have done is on the day that Sunday I shouldn't have gone to that special thing. I should have stayed home and just not went for that brunch, and I probably would have been healed a little sooner. So today's recipe was have the green tea. And then maybe not have anything but broth till later. But I got on the plane. I was very hungry, so they brought me the Sprite or 7 Up, and I had a little bit of that, which was fine. But then I had, they give you the cookies. I was being very careful. I took one cookie out. I broke a little piece of it. Okay,
You got to sample it.
just gonna wait about 10 or 15 minutes and just see how I feel. The other big kicker was the stomach's not making the noise it was making. You heard all that gurgling in you knew something was wrong. Like that's not a normal thing.
It's like a volcano, getting ready to erupt. It's
And
sad.
that kind of, and then obviously you get your control back and stuff, so you're feeling better. But they said on the website it's 2 to 4 days to get totally out. So I would say, but more. So like I said, tonight I had the thing from Chili's. I had a little bit of the chili Southwest chicken, which probably wasn't the best thing, but it was fine. I was okay after it, but I was just careful. But it also gave me another premise in being healthy. And you know how I always watch what he and stuff. Another thing it really taught me was, I ate slow in those moments, and I enjoyed that. And I said, you know what I need to do? I think I need to add something new to my repertoire. Eat slow.
That's recommended, and most of us don't. And it is crazy because if you think the average person really we just shove the stuff in, and we're running, we're walking, which is all unhealthy. And a lot of people they'll tell you that to really have good food processing, you got to take some time to really chew things correctly and let it settle. And it's the idea of an hour lunch. I think it makes sense because you do need a full hour to actually really enjoy that lunch, as opposed to like doing it in 2 minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
It's
when you enjoy the food, something else happens. Your body gets time to send the signal to your brain to say, "Hey, I'm full." When you eat like a maniac, it doesn't have a chance to send that signal up there. And, oh, sorry, we tried to send that signal a half hour ago. I guess you weren't paying attention. You were just so had your head in the food.
Well, you also like crash here. I mean, everything that you just dump that stuff in. I mean, your stomach is, idle for, I don't know how many hours, and you come in, you just really slam it with all the stuff. And Now you have water, grease, all the stuff mixed up, and that's not cool. And maybe we're getting graphic here, but the
Yep.
fact of the matter, like again, we're alive. So if anyone has experienced, any of this nonsense, eating outside or whatever the case may be, chime in, send us your comments and let's talk about it. But it's really bad experience when you actually have food poisoning types, and it could be bacteria, it could be anything. But again, it comes from sometimes lack of hygiene, lack of cleaning stuff correctly. Things are maybe not. Or I give you an example. I was overseas, and I noticed that they have almost like condensation on food in the morning, only
Okay.
to realize that they shut down their actual fridges, whatever they keep, the cooling, systems overnight to save electricity. In the morning they return them on, which that's a very very bad thing. And unfortunately I've seen that live, and where I was looking at this and like, why is there water on this pastry? And it was a bakery. I'm like, that's not good. I mean, that you talk about bakery, which means they got dairy, they got stuff, and if it's not really preserved correctly, and it's not fresh for the day, at least for the night, whatever, it should be correct. So I'm like, oh, I'm not buying stuff in here. That tell you that much.
No,
So
I mean, and they don't realize those few cents they're saving. People say, "Well, gee, so one was always said to me, oh, well, you're going to sue." I said, "No, what are you going to sue? You're going to you're going to. It's like you can sue a ham sandwich, but you're not going to get anything. So, like, by the time you go through all this, you might get $1 because I'm sure there's a class action on this. But the fact is, they've done this so many times, and 7 or 8 times. I just don't understand how they can get away with just getting a slap. I'd like to know what their ramifications were for causing this.
well, John, here's the thing, right? How do you prove that you ate there, right? I mean, you got to do a
How
whole
do I?
analysis.
I can prove. I can prove by my taste in my throat from
I
the.
know. I'm just playing devil's advocate,
Oh,
right?
okay, and
So,
and they even said the whole store when I called the store, they knew. They said we've recalled them already a month ago.
well, that's different. So they admitted. So that's one thing. But in general, if you go to a restaurant, right,
That's
and you
different.
eat and
Yes.
you eat, well, that's not our food. You might have eaten something else,
No,
and
I
that's
I I I
they'll
get
they,
that, but
they pull
like
that
this
card easily.
at Disney when I went to Victoria and Albert's, and I always went there. Uh, One night I went there, and this is the kind of restaurant when you go there, you call them up on the phone. And many years ago, they used to send you an invitation in the mail. Well, now what they do, it's called Express Disney Mail. You put the reservation in the morning. Well, when you come home, that invitation's waiting for you on your bed or on your chair there, saying that you're our guest. We'd like you to invite you to be our guest. So I always say to somebody, if I'm going to be your guest, why is it I'm getting a bill if I'm your guest?
I'm sorry.
Target always says I'm their guest. I said, if I'm your guest, I said, you guys got to go back to school and learn how to treat guests because that's not proper with manners.
Well,
They look at me.
John, you work there, I work there, and I know 30 years ago it's not the same. I mean, it's not the same attitude. It's not the same behavior. The company has changed a lot, and they're still great at a lot of things. But I think that magical piece of what we used to think of Disney, and I still believe in the Disney magic and all that.
I
But
love the Disney magic, but there's still some problems with the people that they don't care about the magic. They just care about it as a job.
well, that's the thing. I think that's the it's a pen. I think that's a problem across all jobs. I mean, unfortunately, like again, we talked about this, the staffing model today. The
Yeah.
people are
Yes.
just
Yes.
different. They don't care as much. First of all, they don't care because I'm gonna get a job tomorrow. So that's one. Two, the attitude is different. So when I worked there, I mean, really loved to do the stuff and deliver, and was going beyond the Call of Duty, just to make someone pleased, in there and give them that whole experience where they're like, oh, and
Hmm.
they used to leave you comments, before they leave the park, and it comes out in the newsletter, and you're looking forward to that newsletter every Thursday. I mean, that was back in the days. It was different, but today I don't think, and they're still at top, of the food chain in terms of quality and all the stuff, but it's just the way it is everywhere today. It's like you cannot get the best service, and yet everybody has a survey, yet everybody is looking for 5 stars reviews and stuff. And it's just a contrast that I cannot understand, but it is real. You don't get the same. Why? I have no
You're
idea.
you're you're right. There is one place. I'm not a big fast food fan, but one place that's kind of not fast food. And when I go there for their chicken. It's only 120 calories, and I have no bread. The service there is impeccable. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A's. The
Ah,
service there, oh my gosh. And they're closed on Sundays. What more could I ask for?
yeah, no. Well, that's their rule. I mean, that's since the beginning of time. They don't do Sundays. But you're right. I mean, their food is different. It's I guess lighter. I don't know. Whatever formula they use is pretty cool. I mean, the lines are long.
The
Yeah,
lines are very long,
yeah.
and then every time I'm going there, I'm getting a thing. Oh, would you like to fill out our survey? And then you get a free thing every so often. I get a thing. Oh, you want to fill out a survey? The surveys are not short; they're long,
Well,
and they ask very specific questions like, what was the tone of the music like, or what was the attitude toward the music, or how was the attitude of the staff? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't like how clean was the restroom? They ask that too, but their questions more like. If
your whole
when visiting
experience.
a restroom, would you be likely to use it again on a scale of 1 to 10? Like they don't just ask you was it clean. They just like would you be likely to tell someone else to use that restroom?
Uh, that's a big part. I mean, a restaurant can tell you a lot about a restaurant. If you go in there, it's not looking good. You got issues.
Absolutely, and even your airports, and things like that. And I was on the plane today with United, and they did something very interesting that I never heard them do on an airplane before. They went through
Mm,
the whole thing about say of course having a great experience is great, but safety is our passion.
mm.
And so they were going through, and then the guy was saying that with traveling today, in your course of using the restrooms, we do go through all these steps to make sure they're this and that. Da, 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 da. But if one is not up to snuff, please do let us know, and we'll be sure to address it. I never have heard that ever said on an airline in all the years I've flown.
Actually, I don't recall. I've flown enough, and I don't remember that. I mean, they
We
talk about
we
everything.
just let us know, and we'll be happy to take care of it. I mean,
Well, I've seen the staff. I mean, they take care. They open them. They
no,
check
but I
them out.
never heard the words.
All right,
If
from
you
the
visit the
captain.
restroom and it's not up to, please let us know. Could be something as simple as you're out of paper towels.
No, it's pretty cool, man.
I was at a place at a religious ceremony, and I said, "Well, who do you tell when they're out of paper towels?" So when I went to the usher, there said, "Oh, well, we could take care of that." So I didn't know who I'm supposed to tell. I know I don't tell Father, but who do I tell that we're out of paper towels? We can handle that. It's like,
Hey, well, that
I
works.
I went to a couple weeks ago. I told you guys last week. I went to my very first annual um, Advent wreath making event. That was interesting.
Tell us about it.
There's a reel on it, by the way. It's up there. But I was at my church, MBS, and we were making a. I thought we were just going there to make a wreath, but then they had lunch too, pizza and salad, pizza, and different chocolate cookies. So most people they had families, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was just me, myself, and I. It was $20 per family, so they kind of did well on me because if you had 7 or 8 people, you're still paying $20. With me, they made about a 95% profit easily. Because what did the wreath cost in a few candles? $3, $4? Um, so they give you that. They give you the thing all ready to go, and then they give you the live wreath, and you basically punch it into the thing, and then you put your candles in.
Mm, interesting.
So that we did that kind of preparation, and then I went to a church this weekend. I didn't want to tell them, but I said I think they got something wrong. They got five candles on the Advent wreath. I said I don't think there's a fifth week. Why are there 5 candles? Somebody trying to get creative with one being a lighter or something like that just doesn't seem like it follows tradition. But pretty soon is going to be December 1st, and I actually have. Where did I put it? I actually have. Oh, let me get it. I'll show it to you. I got it the other day. If you guys can see it. It's an Advent calendar. And every day you open up a number. There's probably a phrase. And there's a piece of chocolate.
Interesting.
Local
Interesting.
bakery, $3.99.
Very nice. Very nice.
I found it's by Erica's Something Pantry in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was at this brunch, And by the way, at that brunch, I was feeling fine. Nothing was bothering me. It was like I had a temporary like a plug. 2 hours after that, I was not good, but I was totally fine while I was eating. I was totally fine. Well, this one person there, his name is Alessio, and he's from Italy, and his girlfriend was there too, and they're cousins of this lady that's 90 some years old. Well, they brought chocolate, and I even took a picture of it. The chocolates from a Terra Tamisio, their shop in the town, and they had like pecan, all kinds of different things in it. Very interesting chocolates. I said, I wonder if I can get them on Amazon. Like it was just a unique kind of chocolate. It
Mm.
wasn't like your typical Swedish chocolate. It wasn't like your Belgium chocolate. It was like had a lot of stuff in it, pistachios, and
Nutty.
it was very nutty. If you didn't like nuts, well, then you'd be kind of screwed.
Well, you got to be careful. I mean, again, for allergies and all the stuff. So that's some of these
I'm
things
not
can be.
allergic to anything, so I know what this was. My thing was the milk. And I
Yeah.
know because when even milk doesn't smell a little bit, I don't keep it. I throw it way out. I don't even like I smell it. I think it's gone bad. Nope, don't even try it. Throw it out. That
If
extra
you,
day you save, it's not worth it. Because that it only takes most people don't know this, but if you eat something at 1 o'clock, within 4 to 5 hours, you're having food poisoning. So when I had that at 1 o'clock, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, guess what happened? I was starting to feel sick already at 5 o'clock. But it hadn't hit me yet because we already had reservations for dinner. And they said, well, we shouldn't have gone out to dinner. I said, well, I figured I would just be careful. And
Hmm.
I got through dinner okay, but then I felt lousy after that. And the thing I just wish they would have is more quality assurance testing. If they did, then this wouldn't have ever happened. I'm not saying a company's, perfect or they shouldn't make mistakes, but if they do make a mistake, they should be able to rectify it before it actually gets in the public.
well, again, they may not know. I mean, it can be just a bad trip, whatever. It's
Oh
it's,
no,
it's
no, it wasn't a bad batch. It was several months worth of of
production.
uh, of production of these popcorn. So somebody was sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, that's the least.
I'm thinking of going a lot further. So tomorrow I'm going to take a thing. Even tonight I'm going to take a whole thing targeted at Conagra and just hey, I know you guys are making popcorn. You've been a while in the business, but I'm just going to just hit them a couple of things and let them know the cost and what that does to people's lives. And what are you guys doing to actually make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, talking about cost, I mean, we're talking about health and cost. I mean, those two
Yeah.
things can go very expensive, and
Oh wow. Yeah.
you end up at the ER. Just a visit to the ER is a couple of $1,000s, and depends on what insurance you have and deductibles and all that. God forbid you wind up in a hospital for a day or two, and which could happen. It's a lot, and it's who's going to pay for that? I mean, it's on you, and you can't go back to the company and say you did it, because again, unless they pump your stomach and analyze it, and there's a particular food that you can attach back to a particular place, and you have a receipt.
When you eat one food and you can taste that milk or the thing, and I had nothing else milk that whole day. When you can do that, that's enough to go back and say, hey. And when I had kernels of the popcorn, that's enough to say, that's causing the irritation. And then everything else that goes in was just, I didn't realize it. Everything else I was eating was still not staying because the stomach was still agitated.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's at that point, it's already like not too good, and you got all the stuff going on there, and your body's going to reject all that stuff. So that's the other thing. So your body's trying to get rid of all
Plus,
the
I
nonsense.
lost a few extra pounds. Probably that was not the way I wanted to lose them, but
Well, that would say that's one benefit of being sick, but that's not a benefit we would look forward to. But usually if you have any illness, you fever, whatever, you'll drop a couple of pounds because you're not really eating anymore. And by the way, that's the other thing. Was there any fever?
so I think I might have had one, but it was very, very brief. I
Yeah,
was
no.
so concerned on everything else that was happening. I mean, I felt my head a couple times. It was just more or less during the time when I couldn't sleep. The rest of it was just kind of like, moving.
Wow.
But taking the deep breaths and there's only so many times you can swallow, and you either can swallow and it can help you, or you swallow or it can make it worse. So it just depends on how you swallow, what position you're in, and how much it's going to be agitated. But it's just one of those things where you go somewhere. But I know, like now, I will never go back to Victoria and Albert's again. I know that if a restaurant ever does cause food, I won't go back there. Now you might say that's being a little harsh, but I'm sorry. If you're in the restaurant industry, One of my companies I own is a food concession company. If people get sick from me, they'll never come back. And I am very picky. If there's one little thing, like if something's burnt or something out of whack, throw the whole batch out. I don't
Well,
try to save food or anything like that.
well, again, you know how that is, right? I mean, the cost and everything. Sometimes you got people that are afraid that actually they lose their job if they do bad things, and so they just camouflage the whole thing and they just let it
I tell
slide.
them, throw it out.
Well,
I'd
you
rather
would,
you throw the food out and we'll just write off as an expense.
not you would, but not everybody does. And sometimes you have most of these places. Sometimes the people that are owning these places are not there. I mean,
No.
unless you're really running the show yourself and you're there standing, making sure everything is running, you pretty much delegate that job to somebody, and then that person is overseeing a lot of people, and some of these people are temporary part timers, whatever, and they may not have the same dedication or same feeling about the place that you do. They may be also disgruntled because whatever the case may be. I don't know, could be a lot of things, and that's the part that happens in a lot of places is that
Hmm.
you don't know what you get. Depends on a lot of things, and we
Pot
talk about
luck.
this. We talk about business, right? Your
Yes.
employees are key, and then if they're happy, everything else is happy. There's a connection there. They take care
But
of your business properly. If you treat them right, they'll do the right, for you. But again, there's a lot of that stuff now in these franchises. Sometimes you have different people. Not everybody is made equal, and therefore
hmm
the service can change. Even you some of these places have pre-packed food. They that stuff comes ready. I'm not talking about the fast food. I mean, like some of the franchises, they get semi stuff.
sandwiches or stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah, stuff
package.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, they get packed, whatever. But
A lot
you
of them
don't.
have date codes on them, and you can understand what those date codes are. And a lot of them they throw them out, so they're pretty good on turning over, but
Of course, they
it's
have measures because
yeah,
Department of Health hits you. Forget about it. I mean, that. I
you're
mean,
done.
I have to say. I mean, believe it or not, again, I travel, and in my travels, I have to say, I mean, we have probably one of the best systems when it comes to food and monitoring and just making sure that everybody is doing the right thing and so on and so forth. A lot of places in the world, you got you got less of monitoring and all these departments are not really up to par to where we are
There's no
standard wise.
control, right? There's no
There's no
control.
control. I mean, there's nobody. I mean, there's nobody to talk to.
There's a free for all.
You just it's at your own risk, baby. you know I give you a good thing. I mean, it's a joke, but when we travel in some parts of the world, we probably spend more time in McDonald's and Burger King in some of these locations than actually any of the restaurants because we know that they still have to maintain the standards, and worst case scenario, I mean, we can complain because those companies, where to complain, but the other places there's nobody to complain about. You can go like, oh, I don't. One time I had this sandwich. It tastes nasty. It smelled nasty. I'm like, this dude, this is not. You can't eat this. It's like, oh no, this stuff good. There's good. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm like, well, eat it. Damn it. you know, but I'm saying like they give you the attitude like like you have triple heads here. Like not
Yeah,
even.
or you're foreigner. You're not used to this. This is how we prepare the food here.
Yeah, well, I'm saying just have it. I'll pay for it. Just eat it for me, so I can see how you feel after that. But like they give you the attitude like you're a dumber. So it just doesn't make sense. But we have to feel good about like at least here you got protection, you got this, you got that. I mean, there's so much you can talk about it. You can go complain. Better business bureau. There's so many things you can do. Uh, you can sue. I mean, you travel around the
Right,
places,
you
you can
can
sue
sue,
them.
but here's the thing, like I was telling you could sue a ham sandwich, okay? But you're not gonna get anything out of a
Oh
ham
yeah, of course.
sandwich.
Well, I'm
So
saying
so so you have to sue, there has to be a viability, otherwise, it's nice to say you're gonna sue, but if it's gonna take you 100 years to get something like a penny, it's not worth it, so you have to realize, what is it you're trying to do? Are you trying to create a lot of times you just trying to create exposure so
well,
that you can get
yes.
them to hopefully onus to realizing they don't want more damage.
Well, that's usually what happens, right? The big companies don't want to be in the news, right, about anything, and so they want to be in the news for the good things, for the right things. But if you
Not the
go
bad
in,
things.
yeah, if you go in that you got a bad food, you're poisoning people, blah blah blah. You got people
Good
that
luck.
that's a problem. I mean, that destroys you. I mean, a few years back, I mean, we've heard about all that, with Taco Bell, right? I mean,
Yes, yes.
there was a whole crazy, phase that they
They
had to go
they
through.
they did address that very well, though. I mean, and that was not Taco Bell's fault. That was one of their suppliers. But I have to tell you, Taco Bell,
They did.
they've always been a reputable company. That they really they address that. What I would have liked to see from this company, Conagra, is a letter apologizing to what happened and what steps they're taking so this doesn't happen again. I think that's what I'm going to probably try to do with my social media. I want to make a statement. I want this to never. I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through, at least with their popcorn. First of
Uh,
all, I don't like popcorn with butter in anyway, so that was the whole thing. My mom bought it with butter, and if it didn't have the butter, it probably would have been okay because it wouldn't have had the milk in it. But that was the only thing because usually popcorn's fine.
well, again, it could be popcorn, could be anything, but you're right. I mean, the question is, this is a good thing for a lot of people watching and listening, just to apply those rules and maybe send a letter. Hey, listen, this is just to bring it to your attention. This is what happened. It's not feeling good. Blah blah blah. You should be. And sometimes you'll be surprised. You get good responses, and we'll take care of it. Blah blah blah. And they may even take some action. Again, you might not know what takes place in real time, but
I
they'll.
think that's the important thing. You want to ask them, "Hey, we had this situation. Just would like to know what you're doing to address this when you decide, figure that out, and get back." That's what I think. A lot of times people don't want money, but they want to a lot of times people want to know what was done. Like what is going to be done so this doesn't happen again. But when I told you 7 times,
Mm,
7 times, that tells me there's something wrong in that company.
7 times is seven too many.
Once or twice, I can understand, but 7 times, would you go back and buy popcorn from them again? Probably not.
Mm-mm. Nope.
No. I would buy from Orville Redenbacher, but I wouldn't buy if these people are distributing. Hopefully, they have another distributor. I don't know if they have somebody else, but I know that they had a couple companies making their popcorn for a while. You probably
Well,
remember the Popcorn Company. Now they make their own popcorn there.
but
It,
you bring in a great point, John. Is that companies have to be responsible, right? And you mentioned quality assurance, quality check, and all the stuff, and quality standards. Somebody at the helm is in charge of that, right? And they need to do
mhm.
what they have to do, and unless it's actually contaminated outside of their environment, again through transportation and other things that could happen too. We don't know, but or maybe it was just something. It was a batch that was just behind schedule and stayed behind in some sort of a, I don't know, a depot or whatever storage room, and then it just made it
But
to be
three, but
because.
three, 3 months, 3 months, and several stores of Kroger's and Publix. That's the problem.
Yeah, but again, what you see now, you mentioned, like for example, these companies, Publix or otherwise, they're bright, they're buying stuff, right? They should, I'm sure they're complaining about this because as long as people are bringing that to their attention, they're gonna make noise about it. The question is, are they
That
taking
that
the
might
necessary
be
time?
the angle I may have to go after, not just Conagra. I may have to like tag some of the stores in my posting. Hey, tag us Albertsons, wherever else. How's it? And then have them because I think then they'll make the decision of whether they want to carry that product again.
Well, then that's a different story because now they have to be concerned about their distribution channel, right? That becomes a
Because they
problem.
refunded us immediately. They didn't care that we used some of it. They just refunded us the whole amount of money, not a question asked, which was great. We didn't even expect them to get our money back. We just wanted to tell them that, hey, oh, we're aware of it. It's been going on for over a month.
Well, again, that's their policy, and a lot of places would do that. I mean, I'm sorry, this happened. Here's the money, but again, it doesn't take your pain away. It doesn't take your ordeal for 3 days. It doesn't take away your time from work or school for the
Right.
kids,
I was
and
on
so
vacation.
yeah, yeah. So it could ruin your vacation. This happened to me once on vacation. I mean, I literally went. I was on vacation. I go grab some food, and I tell my wife I'm going to the pool, and guess what? The next thing I'm actually with fever. Literally just on the bed, and that's it. there
That's
goes
why
the
I didn't.
pool.
I didn't even get into the covers. I just stayed outside the covers so I could just easily get up and get down very easily.
No, no, that I would. In my case, it was just a knockout. I was literally just fever went up, and I was on the on the bed. For
And I
it
just kept
was.
waiting. I'm like, well, when is this going to leave? Like, when is it going to leave? I kept trying to divert my mind on something else, but then I couldn't because it kept, pulling me back. I
Yeah.
kept doing all my different, what do you call it? I did a lot of my mind and brain games, which would work well. Like I took the pain out. I would take it. What color do I see it in? I would pull it out. I would play with it, and that would work for a little while.
You
Yeah.
played psychology with it, right?
Yes.
You know,
And
you
that
try
did
to.
work for a while, but then when it reared up again, you had to just keep getting more creative. Like, okay, what color is it? So what do I need to do to make it so it's not there? How do I make it less?
Well, so John, let's. So I think we can just come up from this discussion. There's a few things that I think
Sure.
our audiences can benefit from, and hopefully they take it. One is caution always be careful, especially around food and stuff. I mean, check out your whatever you buy. Make sure it's the right thing. If it doesn't smell right, doesn't taste right,
Dates,
whatever.
dates, dates.
Exactly. So that's one, and I think that's pretty common sense. A lot of people do that, and the other one is really just for businesses and business owners and corporations.
Hmm.
If you're in the consumer world and you're actually producing products,
Right.
it is your due diligence. It is your responsibility to make sure that you do that. And whoever's in leadership, role, who's ever behind these things, they need to make sure that they test everything themselves. And maybe I mean, a lot of companies have these testers, or like the secret shoppers. They go to
Hmm.
these places and they enjoy the meal and all the stuff, and they just bring some information. Or they shop and see what's going on, whether it's good or bad and otherwise. And so these things are there. Again, I'm sure we're not teaching them something new,
I
but
don't think
sometimes
so.
but sometimes it's a good thing as a reminder to always, like, hey, check this out, because sometimes we get a little bit loose on things, and we're just like, okay, it's been good. It's always good until it's bad, and then and then that's the issue. So again, just
Well,
something to
that's the
consider.
thing. People always say it's good until we have the weakest link, and that's what takes it down. That weakest link.
And the job is to make sure there's no weak link. I mean, you have to check on your everything, right? Everything is
And if
always going
you're
to be.
running a party, I don't care if you're doing a holiday party this year, whatever you're involved in, if you're the host, you got to make sure that you do your due diligence, that you buy food that's at a high quality, that you don't just buy things that are cheap so you can get more. Because if those people get sick, not that they're going to sue you, but they're never going to come to your party again
Well, yeah, or it will ruin the whole mood for the whole
or ruin
party,
the whole
right?
mood for the evening. Usually, depending on how the parties are more than 4 hours, or depending on how long and later that
Well,
is.
some of it can be that bad. I mean, you can just literally crash right away if it's bad. But again, hopefully that's not the case. But it could happen, right? Um,
Absolutely. And if you remember, we were talking, I think I had talked to you about our social media commenting etiquette. That's been getting a lot of attention. But something else that I want to share with you, have you ever played the game um, Trust Fall?
no, I
It's a
can't
new
say I
article
did.
just went out the other day. So Trust Fall is a game. It was played for a long time, and then it's kind of been stopped for liability reasons. But basically, what it is there's a couple ways you can play it. One is you're in a circle, and you basically in the center of the circle, and then you just fall intentionally, and somebody catches you. Then they push you back up. You keep falling, and you just keep doing that around and around. The other way you do it is you're just one person. Hopefully, they're on their cell phone or not, and then you fall back and hope they're going to catch you. Now, what does this prove? Well, it's called Trust Fall. It started with some team building groups many years ago, but because of the liability of people getting hurt and brain concussions, they stopped it. But the other reason that they stopped it wasn't just because of the liability, was because just because you have somebody that is showing trust for you right now does not mean that that person is going to show trust every day in their life toward you. So here you are, you just went through this great ceremony, you think you're the greatest of friends, and now you need them to do something. In my article, I share the fact that when the boss asks you to do something and they're watching you, well, you're going to be very apt to doing it properly, right? But when the boss isn't watching, you might not be as careful or as concerned to do it as properly as when they're watching.
Cats away to mice play, right?
Exactly. So Trust Fall is a great game, and I think it was a great concept. But the interesting thing that I was learning about is that it really doesn't mean anything because you had 5 or 6 people catch you. Okay, now I have a problem in my work, and oh, sorry, I'm at lunch, or like that's the point. Is that it's a nice facade, and companies were charging thousands and thousands of dollars for this trust training. What everybody realized is it was a facade. it really didn't build trust. It
Well,
built something that was supposed to be there, but wasn't always.
well, actually, I did participate in something similar. It was an HR drill that we did, and they didn't call it that, but it was just like one of those team building concepts that we did, and what is that when you're in those trainings, right? Not everybody is doing it because they really want it. They're doing it because they have no choice.
Well,
They're being
exactly.
summoned.
That's right.
They're summoned there. They have to pass it. Their bosses are watching. Whatever the hierarchies, and everybody's making sure that they're doing their job. So they're gonna do it for whatever purposes. You want to try good team building. I've tried escape rooms. those
Yeah.
those could be a good team building place because you really have to work together as a team to get out of those rooms.
But then
Uh,
what happens is if you're working together in that team and the team builds, are
mm,
you able to take that dynamic and bring it somewhere else? Or was that just a dynamic that was there because of work? I remember being in an
Great
organization
question.
many, many years ago, and we were doing something. Then I was out somewhere to part. Oh, John, yeah, we don't do that here. Well, what about what we did last week when we came here? Yeah, that was at the office. We don't do that outside the office. Well, why not?
Mm, interesting. Well,
So
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. Go
No, no,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna say. I mean, these things are made for to build some level of practice and but everything, like everything else, right? You have to do it and take it with you, right? You got to take it and absorb it and apply it beyond whatever that time frame that you did or that exercise, right? Like everything
Absolutely.
else, you have to practice makes perfect. Well, although it doesn't make perfect, but just gets you closer to perfect, and at least you know more and more. You still can make mistakes and learn, but the bottom line is that you're doing it, beyond whatever that exercise. When we, like, for example, when I mentioned the escape rooms, it was just a nice activity where it could show that people can work together and things like that. So, and that's the other thing. If you can do it now, you can certainly do it again. The problem is you have to have chemistry. There's all other
Do you
factors that
want
apply.
to? Yeah, is it that's the magic thing. You say chemistry. People when they go on a date, right? They go on a date and they attraction and they're together and that's just for the date, okay? And one or two dates. But then two or three dates that wears off. And if there isn't pure chemistry, well then you don't have anything more than attraction. Attraction won't keep a relationship alive.
Well, and that's the thing that we're not talking about relationship today, but and that's what happens. Like people date and blah blah blah, and then they get engaged, they get married. Things don't get. It's not the same. you know,
The
having
honeymoon
is over.
it's like yeah, it's a short honeymoon. It's like it's different after the honeymoon.
Well, again, because the real stuff, happens, right? It's this is not about just being careful of everything. It's becoming you versus you, and or versus the other party, right? It's not. It's like when you're in a date, you're in a date. You got to play it, right? And when you're in something, when I meet someone for the first time. You're behaving the best, and I'm not talking about just date. I'm talking general, even business, whatever.
Sure, absolutely,
Once you get
absolutely,
involved, I mean, people get to know you more, and your true personality starts show.
absolutely.
Like again, we talked about this in business. We interview people, right, and we get interviewed too, and whether
All the
you're the
time.
company or you're the employee, it doesn't matter. It's a two-way street, right? Bottom line is everybody shows you the best at that point. I mean, everybody can pitch, everybody can tell you this is the best place to work, everybody can tell you I'm the best employee. When that happens, when you actually join the company or when they hire you, then you know the reality of what that company looks like, and then they know exactly about you as an employee and whether you're really the best fit that you promised to be. So these things actually, sometimes are very real. And again, we started this discussion about team building, but this affects everything. It's just about how you do things, and it could be a problem. And so, but then expectations, right? If we have expectations from before and understanding what we're going into, things are different. That's the thing. Don't think that everything's always going to be peachy, everything's going to be working out the way you want it. You're right. I mean, you talked about this whole exercise about team, you know catch me, I catch you. I mean, can I trust you? Well, I'm going to catch you because I don't want you to break your head. But in a real scenario, like we say, like, um, you do business with someone, you travel with someone, or you lend money to someone, that's when you really know how well they are, right? They're true friends or not friends, and so on and so forth, because that's when the dynamics of human relationships become deeper, right? but like you and I, we know each other, right? You haven't given me money, I didn't give you money. We're still cool. But if we exchange money and become business partners, that could be a challenge, right? I'm not saying we're just giving an example, but in general, that's what happens, right? You don't know until
It
you're in
changes
it.
changes the dynamic. It changes
Exactly.
the dynamic.
And again, for purposes of today's discussion, these are just things to be aware of. And again, we share with you some of the things that we play with, use, and or we have been, a part of. And you can some of you may have listened to it, before, been part of it. Some may not have. But if you may be thinking of ideas of practicing, these are good ideas for practice. But understand what that means for beyond the training or beyond that model. That's all. And whether it's going to apply and it's going to give you the results that you want. So that's something just
Well,
to keep in mind.
that's a good kicker right there. Is the results. People do things for the results, but really, people don't do things for results. Unfortunately, they do them to keep themselves out of pain. That's why our hospitals are so very busy every day. See,
Mm.
if they did things for pleasure, they wouldn't be so busy. So in life, if you think about doing something, yes, you want to do something for the right reasons, but a lot of people don't. They do it because they want to get out of pain. That's why they do it. Well, if I do it with this, or if I invest with this person, or I do this, I want to get out of the pain I'm in now. They don't look, well, if I invest with this person, I'm going to have more. They don't look at it from that perspective. They just see they're in so much. That's why people don't change or do anything unless there's a reason to change. It's not broke, don't fix it. That's what they would say.
Well, there's something called improvement.
I agree. I agree.
We all have to improve in our life, whether in person, whether in family, whether in business, character, all the things, right? Your aptitude, your knowledge,
Absolutely.
so if you don't do that, I mean, you're basically, demoted. You're basically, old school, or you're not up to date, right? So I mean, we talked about computers earlier. You got to update, your software and your hardware and everything. So it's all about that.
And you've got to update before you need to update. So
Well,
I always set
again,
the rule of thumb in technology. I set for laptops, computers, should be around 5 years max, but you should be ready to start playing to flip around 4 years. But by the fifth year, you should be out of your technology. Even though technology will, lots of the new SSDs and M.2s, they're going to last for well past that. You want to be out of something before you outgrow it or before it's going to fail. That's the most important thing. Everything is a moving target. But something I want to share with you as our last topic here tonight, I could talk all night. I'm a big buff when it comes to security.
yep.
And so there was, and we were talking about this just before we got on the air, which was the fact of, I have to do all these emails, and I have like 50 emails from different companies, and I have to bring them over to the other computer. So I can actually take all the settings and move them over. That's like 5 minutes. But I have to put the passwords in for every single one of them. Instead of going into Outlook and creating every one, I just copy the profile and bam, it's going to know where they are, know the directory, and I just have to put password here, password there, password, 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 password. Very easy. Well, what if you were going to use some way to store a password? Now, storing passwords and putting it on a piece of paper and storing it in your grandma's cookie jar isn't the way to go. People say, oh, well, you should put an Excel sheet, put a word sheet. Well, that's not the right way to go either. Oh, well, you should download a password app, a file, or a program. Like, nope, that's not the right way to go. So everybody says, they're so secure, they're so great. Well, there was one, because most of them have been hacked, almost every one of them. One has not. It's called RoboForm. You may or may not know RoboForm. Okay, so RoboForm is a company that makes a package that allows you to store passwords and basically and all the different forms you have from different websites and whatnot. Now, the way these password vaults work, that's what they are, is they take your password and your credentials and they store them somewhere. Okay, that's fine. They encrypt it. That's fine. And a lot of them say we have no access to your passwords. They're encrypted. Okay, fine. Now, we're military grade. We've never been hacked. I mean, this sounds pretty attractive, right? That you want to use these people. They're only $1 or $2 a month. Really sounds interesting. So I say, you know what? I'm not going to put my life into this, but I'm going to test it. Anybody that tells me that they're military grade and that they've never been hacked, it's worth 10 or 15 minutes of my time to play around with it and try to poke a hole in it. So I downloaded the program RoboForm, did a free trial. And then they asked me for a master password. I said, oh, that's good. They're going to ask you for a master password. So remember, I'm doing this all BS. This isn't any of my real data. And so I put a password in there. And before I did that, I said, wait, I said, I want to just check this out. So I opened up their web browser, just a regular Firefox or what have you. And I went to developer mode and I browsed. And then I typed in the password. And sure enough, there's a string that says master password sent in text. Now, for those of you who don't know, text is, anyone can read text. There's nothing encrypted in text. So I reached out to them and asked them, why is this? Oh, no. We encrypt it locally. So they've just gone against everything they've said, that there's supposedly this top program. And now with that one master password, you can get access to the entire vault. Doesn't matter what you have protected in there. So if the password is being sent unencrypted, at least tell us, for crying out loud, that the password is not sent unencrypted. I saw it right there, blue as day. These are my passwords I'm saving, and I made that my master password. These are the passwords I'm saving. And right on the screen, these are the passwords I'm saving. Just wrote right out in text. So my point is that a lot of technology is good, but some technology, when you use it to automate, if you don't have another protection, like I recommend people that have passwords, this is a no-brainer, that you use some type of a biometric device or two-factor, at least two-factor. So two-factor, when I put a password in, now I have to have a two-factor one-time code come from my phone, from like Microsoft Password Authenticator, etc. Well, if you really want to get secure, like on my accounting systems, I go a step deeper. I actually have the password key in. It looks for me to push a number, and it looks to validate my eyes. And then I get into the software. Nice. See, a lot of these systems out there, especially if they're not designed in the US, people thought that RoboForm was a great program because it was US. It wasn't. It was actually being ran by a company called Siberian Systems or something. And so I think the big problem is people get fooled when they see how easy technology is, and then they don't realize that pitfall they're going to fall into. Like if you were going to put all of your passwords in there and they were all to get exposed, that's a problem. There were even programs out there that will convert all my email over. But I just started to look at that and I said, wait a minute. This isn't a program locally. It's a cloud service. I'll be damned if I'm giving them my access to read all my passwords. What am I, a fool? So I think sometimes people get confused with being lazy and security. And that's one thing you have to make sure that you don't fall into that prey. Don't be lazy, because if you do, you'll give up your security.
Well, thank you, John, for that, because I mean, I think security is a key thing, especially in today's age. I mean, all we use is phones and computers and all our stuff. I mean,
even physical security too is important. Like your locks and servers. You know, I always say all the digital security is great, but if you don't have physical security, cameras, locks, and stuff, and I bet you that at least, I don't know, half of our viewers watching probably secure something. It could be their home, it could be a password on a website, their bank. But how do they know that the passwords they're using are actually encrypted properly? Do they know the difference between a secure site that has used to be a green bar, now it's an HTTPS site? Do people know how to check that and see, is the certificate really a certificate, or is it one of these just cheap certificates where they just validate the company's domain and they don't actually validate the whole company like an extended validation? So there's different types of things, and there's different validations depending on how much money you want to protect on the site. A site that does $500,000 doesn't need a very full-blown certificate. So I think that's the important thing. And when you've got these salespeople and they tell you, oh yeah, you don't need that, you don't need that. My question to you is, what would happen if your identity got compromised? Try a tune of $1 to $2 million. Easy. And in addition to that, all the frustration and the aggravation and inconvenience you're going to go through by not being able to use accounts and cards.
And this world revolves around those things these days. I mean, everything is going digital these days. It's almost impossible to use.
So we have to be very careful with what we do. And so I know these things like these passive programs, This was a majorly traded company. And I told the CTO, I'm like, dude, I wouldn't use this program. Oh, no, no, no. We got a great license. We have it for 100 employees and we got a cheap price. And I said, all your passwords are actually getting sent over to a company that's not even. I said, oh, no, 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 they're US. Yeah, they have a US website, but RoboForm is owned by someone else. No, 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 no. I'm going to show you. They're owned by someone else. No, you can't be telling.
John, I lost you. John, I can't hear you. I think you're mute somehow. Your mic is mute. I guess they're listening.
Okay. Oh, did I hit? Maybe I hit the mute button. Oh, that's.
I thought you just got hacked. Imagine that, like,
are you kidding me? No, 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 no. But the company that, as I was telling you, that actually owns this is called Cyber Systems, and they started in 1999. And they're like, oh, we can be on your phone, we can be on your computer, and you don't have to worry about anything because just for a few dollars a month, we can protect all your passwords. But what happens if that password, I don't want to scare you guys, but all the information you use on your iPhone, okay? All the information you use on your iPhone, not only do they know what app you go to, what time you go to it, how long you're in the app, where you go in that app. Apple has a lot of data on you, and they sell it. And something else for a last minute, because I know we're out of time. Windows 11, which is one of the reasons I didn't really want to go to it too much, has a lot of forced features to try to make you log into things. So, like, I had to go through a lot of extra gyrations because I didn't want to have a Microsoft account. But after I got my Microsoft Office, I could not enter a key. I had to put an account in to get the key over. It wouldn't let me just log in. It would say, oh, you're using Windows 11, so your code will be sent. I didn't want that. I wanted to, so you see what I'm saying? They're taking away this freedom and they're making it easier, but also they're stealing our privacy.
Well, that's a subject for a whole different show.
I know.
And I don't know. We've seen those debates with Google. We've seen those debates with Facebook, and about how they.
And you're going to see a lot more of those debates.
I'm telling you, I mean, you've seen those Senate and whatever Congress, sessions, discussing these things, and there's always about law and things like that, privacy, and you have all these new regulations. But this is just the beginning. I mean, it's just gonna get more and more intense, and there's just people have to be aware. That's all.
So my solution for you guys, I told you not to use a password keeper, not to put things on a piece of paper and stick it under your laptop, not to put it under your drawer or thumb it somewhere. No, don't do that. Or under a lampshade, don't do that. Or in a cookie jar. What you should do is come up with a word or a phrase. So phrases are best because most people don't remember words. They forget them. So if you have a phrase, for example, for all your business things, let's say the phrase was, let's do it today. Just making that up. We want to make sure it's at least 7 or 8 characters, 1 uppercase letter, at least 1 lowercase letter, and a number and a symbol. Let's jump in the lake, pound 2025 or the year. So you can make it things like always be the year. You could make it that at the end of the year, take the first letter of the website and the last, and you could do different formulas. And then you're going to remember, oh, whenever I have a personal thing for this business, the password always starts like this, and then I have to get other piece of information to get the rest of the password.
We'll take that, John. Again, you want to play with good, make combinations, as you said, uppercase symbols, numbers, no sequential stuff, and different things that you can. That's the other thing. If we all tend to come up with passwords that are close to us and easy to remember, but that's the thing. The If you look at some of these companies when they send you like a password that is a test password, like just a permanent, like temporary,
Yeah.
it's all scrambled digits and alphabet stuff. So it's just almost generated that way. But those are harder to actually come up with or hack or even that's decipher, right?
They are, but you can have words that are still good. You change a letter to a vowel, things like that. Like a vowel, you could change to a symbol, like an A to an at symbol, an I to exclamation point, things like that. So there's lots of things you can do. You just got to be a little bit creative, and the more you do it, it's actually going to exercise your mental brain.
Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, great tip for the last, part of the show. And so we've covered a lot of things about health, about, food, about, recalls, about the fact that you need to talk about your stuff and maybe, send a letter to the company if you feel something off. And try to get at least the notification to folks. And we've talked about, cybersecurity, passwords. I mean, we've covered a lot. We've talked about team building. So a lot of stuff happens in 1 hour, and very, very just casual discussion. We still want people to join this particular discussion. Listen, we can talk for hours, but would like to have your input
Oh,
and
sure,
just have.
we could talk for days. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys come on. I mean, maybe you're not seeing the value. Maybe you're not seeing that this is interesting. But trust me, you chime in, it will make it interesting because it will be nice to have some additional input and your questions. Maybe whatever it is, come on and just bullshit with us. And I guarantee you there will be some benefit to somebody and to the audiences. So that's all there is. So John, what are we closing with?
And for you guys, my theme master topic for this whole week is how to become more confident. That's what my shows are all about this week. We'll teach you those skills you need to become more confident. I'm John C. Morley, co-host, and I'm with,
Hurricane H.
and together we make up Double
Double
Impact.
impact.
And
That's
we'll be
right.
back not next week, but the following week with some more interesting information to share with you with technology around the holidays.
Sounds like a plan, folks. So stay tuned. We'll be
Be
talking
well,
soon.
everyone, and we'll see you in another show. And don't eat too much leftover turkey and pie.
One thing, John. How can they review your
Oh,
show?
absolutely.
And
They can go to Believe. I don't know if we have it in the banner or not. BelieveMeAchieve.com. You can check out John's daily National Day video. You can also check out John's recent articles, where the one I just posted. I post 2 articles every week, one about technology and one about marketing. The one I just posted was Passive Programs Come with a Cost, How Businesses Build Trust Online, and Social Media Commenting Etiquette are 3 of my last articles. So definitely check them out. They're not 100 words. They're like 600 to 1,200 words. So definitely some good reading.
and they're getting traction on LinkedIn. So I saw that.
Oh, they're getting traction, baby. Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah. So good mojo there. Good stuff. Good advice. Listen, information is free. It's available, folks. Just grab something, one piece at a time, and you can add it
but
up.
use it. It's free, but use it.
Yeah.
Apply it to your life and make it better. We
And
got to
with
run,
that,
everyone.
that's it.
Good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Good night.